Hi, it's Joanna here, and I'm creating content for you about emotional alignment life coaching. So, I've been creating content to build another new channel, which is a personal development and life coaching channel. And the first thing that I'm creating content about is emotional alignment life coaching. You see, after I was interviewed by Dave Mack, I received a request for a life coaching session from Virginia. And she had great success in her first session. She came with a 5-month weight loss stall as a problem. And she reported to me 5 weeks after the session, where we were finally able to catch up again. She reported that the weight loss stall had broken and she'd lost 6 pounds in the 5 weeks. The great thing about emotional alignment life coaching is that it's not about consciously training you to behave in a different way. It's quite the opposite. We dive deeply into your history to find out at what point in time and what happened to train your subconscious to give you instructions to do something or not do something that worked as a safety mechanism back then, but it's not working anymore. In fact, it's quite the opposite. It's holding you back. And so I'm bringing this 9-part series to my carnivore channel because carnivores have problems that carnivore can't solve. And emotional alignment might be your best bet. And I'm looking for volunteers currently to be filmed, as well as normal clients who don't want to be filmed and would rather pay for their session. Either way. And I'm also building a life coaching and personal development channel called School of Self. So please don't consider that your problems are not big enough to warrant emotional alignment life coaching. They're not too big, they're not too small, they're not too anything. If they're problems and they're there to be solved. You have a zero tolerance policy for anxiety and you have a few hurdles that you can't just can't figure out how to jump over, you keep slamming into them. Send me an email. Ask me a question. Find out what this is all about. Come and spend some time. Let me film you and it won't cost you a thing. I really am determined to help as many people as possible, and carnivores are great people, and I'm a carnivore and I'm great people. So I'm sharing this series here because my first brave emotional alignment life coaching client who agreed to be filmed is carnivore.
I'm so grateful to you, Joanna. What you do is so valuable. It's life-changing.
Sweeteners, maybe coffee. Yeah, coffee. I'm going to try to get help getting off coffee. I can't wait for a reply.
Welcome back. This is episode 4 of the 9-part emotional alignment series. I hope you're enjoying what you've seen so far. So far, just to give you a bit of a summary if you're new here, we have had the beginning of the session where the client identifies the problem. Then we moved on in episode 2 to identifying whether this problem comes with malicious intent, which we found out it doesn't, and also whether the person who is providing this context, Virginia's mother, whether she has a qualified or an unqualified opinion on the matter at hand. It turns out she has an unqualified opinion, which doesn't negate it. It just clarifies for us Virginia's perception. And it also makes it clear for Virginia to realize that perhaps her qualifications through her own experience are very valuable, and the fact that her mother has an unqualified opinion is a little bit less valuable than perhaps how she saw it before. But later down the track, you'll find out where that pops up again in the session. In episode 3, we went into beginning to plant a seed and a little bit of education about where your beliefs sit in your mind. We have a conscious, aware part of our mind. We have a subconscious part of our mind. It's called subconscious because it's underneath and it's kind of hidden from us. It's only hidden from us if we don't know where to see the clues. My qualification as an emotional alignment life coach gives me the opportunity to see those clues very clearly and put all the bits together, join the dots together with you. Now we're in episode 4, and we start to bring in the concept of emotional growing up. Now, we physically grow up in the first half of our life, and we start to emotionally grow up in the second half of our life. Some of us ignore it completely and never do it, and many of us find it very, very difficult to move through the emotional growing up. And this is what emotional alignment coaching can help you with. It's not just about finding out what's misaligned and aligning it. It is an educational process so that you can understand how to move through that emotional growing up process much more smoothly. We talk about belonging, we talk about the beginnings of belonging and what is involved in belonging. It's not just about you have the same smile as your mother, like I do. It's it's about ideas. It's about history. It's about identity. The problem often comes at a time in our life where there is conflict between the aspects of belonging to a group are clashing with the aspects of the need for autonomy in the individual. And when there is a clash between the two, that's when you have to start thinking about where everything lies and how it's connected. And if I change this, what else will change and in what manner? Sometimes it feels like an enormous risk, but if you understand the ins and outs of the belonging and the need for individual autonomy against or in opposition for the need for belonging to a family group or a community group, then you can start to make decisions. And it's not a matter of you must move in one direction. It's a matter of you understanding the context, understanding the situation, and making the decision that's right for you. But how can you make the decision if you don't understand what's going on? If you're only understanding your perception of the problem, but you haven't got a global understanding of how that sits inside this concept of belonging versus autonomy, it's going to be very hard to make the decisions that you need to make. So, in this episode, we delve into belonging and our inheritance being not just genetic, but it being ideological as well. Okay,
Yeah.
so what we're discovering is that you are actually, whether you just are different than your mum in many ways, or you have become different by emancipating yourself along the way, or having different life experiences, you are a lot more your own person than you are a
Yeah.
biological carbon copy of your mum.
Yeah.
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 And it comes to the point where it's kind of this emotional growing up can happen at any stage in your life. So please don't judge it like you're emotionally childish or something. It can happen at any age, biological age. In fact, it generally happens later.
Okay.
So it's about this
Okay.
emotional growing up because you discover. So we're born and we must belong. We must belong because that's the only way
Yeah.
we're going to survive. And then as we grow,
True.
we only have our teenage years that are a little bit rebellious But then we move through in life and we really do still want to belong to our little family tribe. And the way that you belong
Mhm.
is through ideas. So some people, you look like your mother or you look like your father or, there's a physical resemblance.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be
Mhm.
because as you're growing up, you
Right.
are given a social and psychological inheritance that will link you. So you think the
Okay.
same way.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's like you may not have your mother's
Yeah.
eyes, but you have your mother's opinion or your mother's
Yeah.
preferences. We're the
Right.
same in some way. And so this
Yeah.
sameness
Yeah.
binds you in your family. And most of the
Yeah.
time, people will hold on to that sameness because the belonging in the family tribe is more important than the autonomy and the
Mhm.
freedom that comes with letting go of that perception or ideology or opinion or preference.
Mhm.
So it's
Mhm.
like a concession that you're making, and it's quite okay to make those concessions if belonging
Mhm.
is higher up on the hierarchy for you. However, there comes a time where you you slowly build your knowing of yourself to come to a point of, well, I think I'm going to belong if I drop that little opinion. I think I'm still going
Yeah.
to belong. And it
Mhm.
turns out everyone else is doing the same belonging things they want to belong to. So, and I've had this experience where I have distinctly different ideas than my entire family. And
Mm.
I have yearned for my whole entire forever to either have my family behaving nicely or me having freedom from
Mhm.
having to behave the way that they behave because I can't do it.
Mhm.
And I had to make a decision, which was only 6 months ago, the solid, solid decision in action that I don't actually want to belong to their tribe because it goes against who I am. And I'm okay. I've been okay on my own anyway. So I'll be fine.
Mhm.
I was strong enough within myself to be able to do that. It turns out they want to belong to me. So I can't really, I mean, I can stop belonging on this end. I can stop making those concessions of having to behave or think the way that they do.
Yeah.
They still think that that we all belong.
Mm.
So you don't really lose anything.
Mhm.
It's an illusion of having to make these concessions. Um, if you believe something different than your family member,
Mhm.
it's a carryover from that belonging of when you were a child. You will belong anyway. You can't not belong.
Mhm. Mhm.
And you belong to this spiritual human family more than you belong to anything, regardless
Mhm.
of the dynamics that go
Mhm.
on in your family. So, this episode has been quite a bit of education for Virginia as the coaching client. And sometimes it is really necessary to insert these educational pieces into the coaching session so that the coaching client understands something is not being done for them, something is being done with them. The client is always encouraged to think more and more and more about their own thoughts. My goal is to train you how to do this process a little bit more every time yourself. So, in the beginning, you have no understanding of what to think about, what questions to ask yourself. What am I looking for? I don't know. All I see is problem. After you've been through the process for a while, and some people catch on very quickly, some people take a little bit longer. We are just who we are. Once you hear me asking the same questions or similar questions, questions that have the same through way, questions that have almost a very similar point at the other side, you might start asking yourself those questions. And that's my point. That's why I coach the way that I coach. Don't forget to subscribe. Click the notification bell so you don't miss an episode. If you're interested in putting your hand up to be a filmed emotional alignment client, please email me.
I'm so grateful to you, Joanna. What you do is so valuable. It's life-changing.
Sweeteners, maybe coffee. Yeah, coffee. I'm going to try to get help getting off coffee. I can't wait for a reply.